Hello, friends. Chris Coursey here, president of Thrive Today, and I want to welcome you to the Relational Skills in Real Life podcast. I'm glad you're here. Today's topic is on relationally handling stressful situations. That's right. How do we handle stressful situations in relational ways that match our heart, our faith, and our values? Stressful situations of confronting people and trying to offer correction. These are difficult things to do, friends. It's hard enough to try to confront and correct and offer some feedback to people, but there's something harder. What's harder is when we've tried this before and it hasn't gone well. Well, this topic today is a very important topic because this is not easy. And friends, this is why we practice relational skills on the good days so that they will carry us into the hard times and the hard days. You see, learning to handle difficult situations requires skill, specifically a number of skills. We have skill two, what we call simple quiet, which is when we take a breather, we calm, we quiet ourselves, we catch our breath. And this quieting helps us when we get amped up, when we get anxious and energized. We also use skill zero, which is learning to stay relational and keep our brain's relational circuits running. Skill zero is what helps us be able to escape enemy mode and get back to our relational selves. You see, enemy mode is our go-to state when emotions are too big or emotions are too intense, or we feel alone in difficult emotions and circumstances. So that's really a heavy load for our nervous system. And then we have skill 12, which is acting like ourselves. How do I stay me while I navigate this? So if I was joyful, how would I respond? Now, if I'm feeling some dread or some anxiety or some hopeless despair or fear, how do I stay the same person that I was when I was feeling joyful and peaceful? And then we have skill 11, which is returning to joy and peace. And this is how our brain learns to feel our feelings, share our feelings, and quiet our feelings. And we learn these habits of bouncing back to glad to be together joy. And then we have skill 9, which is knowing when we and others need a breather. I use skill 9 when I say, hey, you look like you need a breather right now. Let's just pause for a moment. Or I see that I need a breather. So I'm just going to pause right now and stop the interaction so I can take a breath. And then there's another skill, a little harder skill, which is skill 15, interactive quieting, which means we're already interacting at high levels of energy, but we just tap the brakes and take short pauses while we continue the interaction. So these skills are life preservers, relational life preservers when we're navigating hard stuff. And wouldn't it be nice if you could recognize your emotions, notice what's happening in your body, and to know what you need in a moment where big emotions are knocking on the door? Wouldn't it be nice if you could navigate hardship in ways that match your heart and your values? You see, the hard thing about correction and trying to resolve differences is our brain often has a whole lot of previous experience that's probably not been fun or helpful. So when we go into navigating some times where we have to correct or offer some feedback or try to resolve a problem, when we've had previously unsuccessful attempts, especially with the same person or people, that's going to be really hard to navigate. And I'm very excited about our Thrive Today friend, Sarah, who's been working on her relational skills. And today, Sarah's going to share a story with us about a time she was feeling some strong emotions, what we call complex emotions, which is skill 19. And complex emotions are where high energy emotions merge with low energy emotions. This is like pressing the accelerator and the brakes at the same time in your car. That's not going to go well. And complex emotions are a greater pull on your capacity battery, which means it's harder to navigate. Let's listen in to what Sarah wants to share with us.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and this is a story about dread. So, over the last few years, my husband and I have had a role in which we need to evaluate people every so often. And in this past season, there has been a couple who has not really appreciated the input that we've been giving. And it came time for their evaluation, and I felt a tension in my body. There was fear. Um, my throat felt constricted. My breathing was shallow. And I was really anxious about the upcoming meeting. And I felt restless, wanting to walk around. Um, at the same time, when I thought about what I should say in this meeting, there was a sinking feeling in my body. I remember just feeling hollow, like none of the words we've offered before have really proven fruitful. What can I even say that will help the situation? So felt downcast. And these two different emotions just went through a cycle. And as the meeting approached, I just turned to my husband and said, I don't think that I'll be able to say anything at the beginning of the meeting. I'm just feeling almost that like my voice would tremble. I was that anxious. So we began the meeting, and my husband was able to clearly state many of the things we had written down in the evaluation and that were fair and well thought out. And as I listened to his calm voice, I just felt the anxiety lower. And as I listened to him, I remembered what it's like me to do, and that is to appreciate something about this couple. And I began to think of their children and the many years of service that they had offered within our organization. And I started to really feel appreciation for what they had contributed. And I felt like I was coming back to myself, to acting like myself. And so I found that after about 15 minutes, I was able to contribute to the meeting and to verbally affirm the ways that they have been helpful and dedicated to the work in our organization. And I surprised myself by being able to come back to a place of peace after feeling so much dread.
Well, friends, wasn't that something? I really appreciated what Sarah shared with us here. This was a hard situation, right? She had had some previous experience. She was feeling some pretty big emotions here. I really enjoyed how Sarah just had this body awareness to know what was happening in her body, the tension, that heavy fear. But she also had some energy that was making her restless. And so when you combine this fear and this pull on her relational battery with hopeless despair, which is, I don't feel like I have what I need, or I don't see how this is going to go well, I don't see a good solution here, then what happens is you feel the weight of that. And so Sarah was feeling that weight. Yet Sarah was able to reflect her relational self. She recognized her reactions. She showed up. She did a very hard thing, which was showing up in the situation, even though it was scary and difficult and probably very painful as well. Sarah's husband was able to stay his relational self, which actually calmed and soothed Sarah so she could be anchored. And she expressed her heart very well with appreciation. So she was able to access some appreciation files for what she appreciated about this family and this couple and just some of the history there. Remembering appreciation helped Sarah to stay her relational self. Sarah was able to return to peace and joy from this very heavy dread. What an example. And I imagine all of us can relate to times like Sarah where we had to face some dread, this heavy weight that just felt like it was holding us back and bogging us down. We can follow Sarah's example by caring for herself in this situation, remembering the good stuff, and pressing through, doing some hard things while she stayed her relational self. Friends, these are important relational skills that really ground us in the tough, turbulent times. I appreciated Sarah's heart and how she was able to stay herself, even though she was feeling some really strong emotions that day. So we can ask ourselves here, where do you need some capacity to better stay yourself in strong emotions? Are there certain emotions that just weigh you down or knock you off your relational feet? Where can you use some return to joy skills so that you can better feel your feelings, share your feelings, and quiet your feelings? In other words, where do you get stuck? What emotions just seem to make you stuck? Or what emotions leave you kind of sidetracking to other more manageable emotions? This is why we practice the skills, and this is why we practice relational skills in the good times, especially so they show up in the hard times. See, when you attend our in-person trainings, you get a lot of practice with these skills, or when you read our books, you learn more about these skills and even practice some of the exercises in these books. Or when you join us for online events or groups, you get practice with these skills, which is really essential to helping us stay the people that God created us to be in the good times as well as in the storms of life. So, speaking of resources, we have some great resources here that you can strengthen your skills to navigate stressful situations and to stay your relational self while you endure big emotions like dread and hopeless despair and fear. The Four Habits of Joy-Filled People is an excellent resource. It's a short book, but it's packed full of good stuff as well as a lot of exercises that you can practice with friends and family members. And we have a Hope for Conflict webinar that's a great resource to really hear some stories and to find some hope that there is hope when it comes to conflict. And we have an online event on conflict when good communication is not enough. When good communication is not enough. Friends, I'm excited for you to be on this journey, and I pray that this is the start of something good for you.